Dolby Atmos is changing the way music is heard, blowing away stereo with music that moves, soundscapes that electrify, and artists making music like you've never heard before.
Hello again. Welcome back to the Music Matters Academy. My name is Jasper Donat, CEO of Branded, and I've been having an awful lot of fun talking to a lot of music people in the music industry to help young musicians and agents and artists and managers and young execs get along. If you tuned in this morning, you're going to have to listen to me again, but it's only for a couple of minutes. But the Music Matters Academy is a series of virtual events designed to help build a foundation, as I said, for young musicians and next-gen business leaders to upskill through the mentorship and knowledge sharing of some true global music industry and entertainment business leaders. But before we go into it, again, I just want to share some brilliant news about some stuff coming up for us. Firstly, we did a live event in Singapore a few weeks ago. We did Gaming Matters with lots of friends from the gaming and the music industry were there. And it was great to be back in a room with lots of people and also online. It was this hybrid thing and it was wonderful. So we're very excited now to be able to say that we're actually going to be doing some more events in November this month. Can you believe it's November? Next slide, please. So up next in real life, we have All That Matters is happening in Singapore for 3 days, 3 tracks on one stage between the 22nd and the 24th of November. So the first on the next slide, please. The first event is Sports Matters on the 22nd of November, then Music Matters on the 23rd of November, Marketing Matters on the 24th of November, and then VidCon on the 25th, all in real life. Lots and lots of stuff. Now, if you're not in Singapore, you can still join virtually, and a lot of people did for Gaming Matters, and it worked. We had people connecting and communicating and talking to the speakers, and we had virtual speakers. It was actually really cool. All the information is available at allthatmatters.asia, and we'd love to see you all there. Anyway, back to today. I've said it before, whether you are an artist or a manager or an executive, it's never been a more exciting time to be in the music business. You might want to get noticed, or you might just be looking to learn more about other areas of the business, or you might be someone who wants to learn about the music business at all. So the academy, the Music Matters Academy, is the business of music taught by the music business. We've covered a lot of subjects so far: publishing, platforms, getting noticed. We've been watched by over 40,000 people, which is pretty cool. And today we've been going behind the scenes to talk to the teams behind the artists, managers, agents, and lawyers. Later on in the series, we're going to be looking at entertainment law, working with brands, live touring, streaming, and also mental health and well-being. The content is all virtual. I know I was talking about live events just now, but this really works in a virtual space because anyone can tune in from around the world. But also it means that you watching can ask questions. So please, now's your chance. Ask questions, and we can and we'll feed them to the speakers whilst we're doing the session. Finally, as you have noticed, the Music Matters Academy is free to attend. It's really important for all of us at Branded to make that possible for artists and their managers. It's free to attend, and that's very much thanks to our partners and sponsors. So thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Believe. Thank you, Dolby, as you saw that ad just then. And thank you, Steinberg Protocol. And thank you for joining. So please enjoy, please learn. And as I said before, please do ask questions. Ask in the little tabs, and we'll pick them up and ask the speakers. So who needs a manager or an agent or a lawyer? Surely in this era of DIY, an artist really can just do it all, can't they? Well, as we learned earlier today, if there's anyone in the food chain that is more necessary than ever, it's an effective manager or an agent, your business parent, your planner, your campaigner, and the one who connects the dots for you. If you, I know I said this before this morning, but if you think you can do it yourself, then you can switch off. I'm sure you've got other things you can do, but listen to these people. I said earlier we had a brilliant session with 2 managers, a lawyer, and global head of artist relations for YouTube. This afternoon session, we have three fantastic speakers. In a minute, we're going to meet Caroline and Gurpreet. Caroline, who's worked with pretty much every single Chinese pop star in the world, and Gurpreet, who's one of the most important Indian influencer managers and agencies in the world's second largest country. But first, a real treat. We have Emma Banks, one of our favorites and one of the best known agents in the world. Emma, thank you so much for joining us at the Music Managers Academy this morning for you. Please tell us for our viewers, who is Emma Banks? Where are you right now? Who are the artists that you work with? And what do your family think you do for a living?
Well, first of all, hi, Jasper. Thank you for that lovely introduction, and hello to everybody that's watching. Thank you. Who am I? So Emma Banks, I have been the talent agent for 30 years, which is terrifying because it means that I'm clearly over 40. But I've loved every moment of it. I've got to say, I did a food science degree at university, so didn't come into it being a massive music fan. Just, I liked music. I then at university got into promoting shows, really working. I managed a band. I did all those things that I think when you find something that you're passionate about, I did everything. And from there, got a job at an agency, at a talent agency. It took me about a year. It was really hard to get a job, particularly back then. There really weren't very many women doing what I do. And I started, and I've continued from there. And when I started, I literally was given a couple of clients that the company represented and asked to book some shows. Here are some venues, book them. And I look back now and I go, goodness, I clearly needed a map, because some of the routing that I gave people, made no sense. It was a like sort of this kind of thing. I remember one artist telling me once that I think they thought they'd driven through Cologne about 10 times in a week-long period. And you're not supposed to do that, really. So that's how I started. And I've really done the same thing over and over again. I mean, I'm quite a believer in Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours of experience to make you good. I think you can do this. It's very much about your contacts, the people that you know, because not everybody wants to give the client that you have a gig. So you have to be able to persuade them to do that. But it's been fantastic. My parents, I think when I first said I wanted to get into the music industry, it was just a disaster for them. They'd spent some money on a reasonable education for me, and I'd been to university, and I was throwing it all away. And my parents had never, ever been to a live gig before I got a job in the music industry. My dad's in agriculture and business. My mum worked in a shop before she got married, and then became a full-time domestic engineer, housewife, whatever you want to call her, and raised 3 children. But they really weren't, they liked pop music to listen to, or they'd go to a dance, but they'd never been to a gig. So they really had no idea the life that I was going to lead, the world I was entering. But I think now they get it, and they're incredibly proud of what I've achieved. And certainly with no family help, there's been nobody to open any doors. I've had to kick them down myself. And I think that's important for people to know. You don't have to be born into rock and roll royalty to get a job. You just have to be really tenacious, take the highs and the lows. What else did you ask me, Jasper? You put 4 questions in one. It's hard for
okay. Time to do a little bit of name dropping, Emma. Who do you? I mean, you've dropped your parents' names, which is a good one. Which artists do you work with?
Currently I'm working on, I have a lot of artists, a lot of clients. They're not all working at the same time. So at the moment I'm working on touring or events for Kylie Minogue, Muse, Lord, Florence and the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Green Day, who else? The Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Charlie XCX. And then, it's easy. It's always easy to name the very big artists because they come to mind. But I'm also really blessed that I work with acts across the board, and we have an amazing team at CAA. So a lot of us work together on clients. So artists like Gracie Abrams, for instance, who's an artist scientist, Universal, who just makes beautiful, beautiful music. Everything was supposed to start before the pandemic, and of course everything's been postponed by almost 2 years. But she finally played her first shows in London a couple of weeks ago. An artist on Sony called Mimi Webb, who's exploding here, doing incredibly well, really quickly, with amazing pop tunes. A rock band called Noisy, who are really exciting. And these are artists that, you know, we're jumping for joy when they sell out a 200 capacity club, because you know, everything is relative. And when people ask me about my achievements are on the back of everybody else's achievements. No one goes to a gig because Emma Banks booked it. Emma Banks is lucky enough and occasionally savvy enough to attach herself to the right musicians and the right managers. And it's their success that I feed off. But I couldn't be more pleased when you sell out the 200 capacity club that leads to the 800, that leads to the 2000, you know, and having that, the momentum going. There's nothing like it. But, you know, the headlining Glastonbury Festival or selling out your first 100 capacity room is equally great achievement.
You clearly do what you love, right?
Yeah, I do. I'm really lucky.
You've got a massive grin on your face as you're talking about what you do. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, and I love the thought of your parents saying. I mean, we hear this a lot from industry folks, senior leadership in the industry. So when they went to their parents and said, "I'm going to be in the music business," and they're like, "Oh, that's sweet. So what else are you going to do? You're going to be a lawyer?
Yeah.
Can be a doctor." And we had that happen this morning as well. So let's go back to your earlier career. What was your first big break?
Well, I suppose my first big break was actually getting a job, because that's hard. You know, I was doing a lot of things at university, but I don't think I ever felt that I could set up on my own. And I think partly because when I started, it was much more closed. I mean, yeah, everyone can figure out basically how old I am anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm 53. And when I started, I was 22 when I started as an agent. There was no internet, so you couldn't look venues up. There was no way of communicating if you didn't know people. So there were publications but they were a closed book. You couldn't just buy it off the shelf. You would have to be known before people would give you information. So I think now I would say there are other ways to go about this, but at the time you really had to get a job with a company to open those doors and get the information, you know, get the Rolodex, the phone book, in order to be able to ring people. So getting a job was a big achievement. And I think after that, it was, what were my big breaks? I mean, signing Silverchair and Jeff Buckley very early on in my career. I mean, a couple of years in was obviously a big deal because they both did incredibly well. I think having a boss, Ian Flukes, who was my first boss, who actually gave me opportunity and occasionally was just, you know, would say things like, "Oh, the B-52s need a tour. Can you just book it?" Instead of being given, you know, the tiny baby artists that don't get you noticed, and so you just have to work longer, harder to get there. I was also given opportunity to deal on quite a large scale pretty early on. And that was a huge break. And then I suppose you fast forward 10, 12, 15 years, and you've built up a reputation, and things like the Red Hot Chili Peppers selling out 3 nights at Hyde Park, which had never been done before, was huge. You know, I mean, I worked with Crowded House very early on. It was a company client that got given to me. And on the Woodface album, we went from playing the Borderline, which was a 250 capacity club, to headlining Wembley Arena, which was their biggest ever gig. And that was in the course of about a year. And that was just a huge result. And I think taught me so much. just as to how you can build careers. And they were 2 albums in already, so it wasn't that they came from nowhere. But yeah, just seeing the numbers. I got the opportunity to work with U2 2 years into my career.
Wow.
And just having, one of the things I was doing was loading all the information for their contracts into the very rudimentary computer system we had at the time. But when you've loaded in the costings for 30 shows, 30 stadium shows, you get to know what's right and what's wrong. And I was hugely lucky to be able to work with Ian and Paul McGuinness and some of the best promoters on the planet on that tour, and an incredible band in U2.
So define the role. What is the role of an agent?
The role of an agent, I suppose, to a certain extent, we are an agent. We are a middleman between the artist / manager and the outside world, predominantly promoters, predominantly the people that actually put a show on. So if I'm talking to Katy Perry's manager and we decide that there's an album coming and now's the time to go and do a tour, I will then speak to promoters in each market that we want to play. And I will say, Katy's going to be doing a tour. We want to play arenas on this tour because, so what arenas should we look at? The promoter will then tell me what dates they're available. I'll already have an idea of the capacity and the kind of ticket price and the money that they can potentially generate. So part of the job is actually putting the dates into a sensible order, which sounds easy, but you'll suddenly find that the venue you need in Paris is only available on one date within a 3-month period because there's tennis going on, whatever. So all these things make life very difficult. But you put a tour together. I do the financial deal. We oversee making sure the artwork's correct. We get the money in. We make sure they're contracted. So it's a sort of soup to nuts on the show. The promoter is taking the financial risk. We earn money by commissioning on any money that the clients that we represent earn. And I suppose that's the gig part of it. And I've used arenas as an example, but it could be festivals. It could also be tiny club gigs. It could be an artist that's barely played a show, and we figure out how to start getting them into small venues, to get them on early slots at festivals, just opening doors for them, I suppose. And outside of that, as an agency, CAA, the agency I work for, is one of the biggest talent agencies in the world, and we have departments in sport and gaming and film, TV, brand deals, sponsorship, you name it. So as well as the things I've talked about, the touring side of things for music artists, we're also doing brand deals for them. The Iconopop girls have been in Trolls, the last couple of things. Katy Perry was in the Smurfs movie. There are people that are doing actual acting on screen rather than being a cartoon character as well. But we pretty much get involved in all parts of people's lives and can help with whatever it is. We're just generally one phone call away from knowing pretty much anybody on the planet.
And you mentioned Paul McGuinness, U2's manager. He was at Music Matters many years ago in Hong Kong, and he came up with a wonderful line where he said, "Never work harder than your band." What advice could you give to young managers or agents who are just starting out their careers?
It was interesting when you said never work harder than your band, because it's so true. Many of us in the back room do work harder than our bands in different ways. So I think if I'm talking to young me or a person trying to get into the industry now, I would say you have to, if you think you're working hard, you need to work harder, because there are so many people that want to be in this industry, and you can really make it happen now if you want to, because of the internet. The internet has opened everything up for people. If you want to find a contact for pretty much any venue or any festival on the planet, if you look hard enough, you will be able to find it on the internet, which didn't exist before. So you have to be smart. You have to, I think, plot and plan, because what people don't want as an agent is someone that just scattergun books gigs. That's fine if you're a party band, but if you're a band that wants an ongoing career and you're releasing your own music, think really carefully about what you do, and just go for it heart and soul. I really think this is a way of life. This isn't just a job. You know, you're at gigs at night, you're up early in the morning to speak to Asia or Australia. You know, I'm up late at night talking to America. So I suppose I agree that if you're in a lucky position, don't work harder than your band. But when you start off, you probably do need to.
There's a question we get from our artists all the time about, you know, it is such an exciting time because there's so many opportunities out there. But the biggest challenge they seem to have is getting noticed. I mean, if you could give anyone some advice on how to get noticed, what would that be?
Well, we could quote Doc McGee, couldn't we? The legendary manager of Kiss, who, when asked, how do I get noticed? He said, put your makeup on and kill the president. I'm not suggesting that you do that. That's a bad idea, but it's a very funny comment. I think now getting noticed is very, very hard. But if you are really putting out quality work, you will get noticed. And I think that's actually the good news about this. But what you have to accept is that what you think is good may not be good enough. You are up against so many things. There is a level of luck as well, that occasionally you're a fantastic female singer-songwriter, but there's another massive female singer-songwriter. Sometimes that opens doors, sometimes it closes them, because on, you know, more mainstream radio stations, they'll go, we can only put 3 of these people on and you're number 4, so you don't make it. But I think, you know, put out the best you can. If you think you've written a great song, hold on a minute and try and write one that's better. And then work hard, you know, have a message. Make sure you're utilizing all of the social media. Make sure you're trying to be in people's faces, have people talk about you. Because if it isn't happening, you might be unlucky, but you might just not be that good or that special. And that really is, you know, I think there's too many talent shows and people that say you can do anything if you really want to. And actually, I don't actually believe that's true. You can do it so long as you just enjoy the process, but you may not become rich and famous. I mean, I've always said to people, don't get into the music business if you actually really want to be rich, famous, a celebrity. Do it because you can't imagine doing anything else. You know, don't chase money. The money comes to you if you're doing the right thing.
So it really is do what you love, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And if you're really lucky, you can make a business out of it. And if you're really, really lucky and uber talented, you can become very, very rich and very, very famous. But for most people, those things don't happen. But if you love it, then there's nothing better. And if you have to fit it in around a day job, still do it. Don't give up your dream. Don't give up the thing that you love. But I think you have to separate a dream being, I want to walk down the street and be mobbed, or a dream being, I love playing music. It gives me joy. And if it can give half a dozen other people joy, it's worthwhile.
And final question for you, Emma, before we meet Caroline. It doesn't have to be music. It can be anything related. But what's exciting for Emma Banks in the world right now?
There's two things. One is the fact that gigs are coming back. It's fantastic. I've been to lots of gigs. I've been to the theatre. That's fantastic. The other thing that is really exciting in my world is that I have become, over the last 10 years, a horse racing junkie. And I've had the most incredible journey in the last couple of years with a horse called Lady Bowthorpe, who has run at the very top level and has given me so much joy at a time where my job has been absolutely grim. And she's now on the nominations list for the Cartier Horse of the Year Awards, which is the very best European racehorses. And yeah, the voting closes. It's 9:25 in the morning here. It closes at noon today. So if anyone's interested, cartierracingawards.co.uk, vote for Lady Bowthorpe in the second category. That's my pitch.
Get out and vote. Now, maybe by the wonders of modern technology, we can Cartier Racing Awards.co.uk.
Yeah.
Lady Bothorpe, Emma. Now we're going to ask you to go off into a little virtual back room, and we'll have you back to meet with all of our speakers. But thank you so much. I could talk to Emma forever. I mean, what a wonderful, wonderful lady. Up next, Caroline Chow. We are going to, I think we're going to go to Hong Kong. We're going to go to Hong Kong.
Hi,
Caroline.
how are you?
Lei Ho Ma. I'm very, very good. Thank you
for
so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us to join. Yeah.
Oh, and thank you for being patient. Now, Caroline, I know who you are, but maybe you can tell people out here, who are you? Where are you at the moment? And who do you work with?
Okay, my name is Caroline Chow. I'm director of Wow Music Limited. We are a music label in Hong Kong. We connect artists to Hong Kong brands and events manager and promoters. We have our own artists, in-house artists, Sugar Cup and Andy Chow and Frances Yip, the legendary artist who sing over 50 years. And this year she's 75 and she's still singing. And she's the original singer of Shanghai Band. You know, that song has been sung for over 30 languages globally. And so we're working with Frances. And then we also work with local indie bands, and also Taiwan artists, Yoga Lin from Taiwan, Mavis Band, and Tiger Wu in China. So what we do is we book artists to attend music events and music festivals in Hong Kong. For example, like the Hong Kong Esports Festival, they will have a music session. So we would introduce artists from Hong Kong, locally, Greater China, and different parts of the world. So my role is to actually try to find local talents. So when they are really, really young, unheard of, and then we also work with bands, that indie bands that they started with small gigs in a club, 20 people, 30 people, 100 people, and in a shopping mall with a music background for a few hundred. And then they move from these stages to 700 people, 1,000, 3,000, and then finally to the Hong Kong Coliseum. So this is what we do. So we love working with artists. I think we're here to service them, and we wanted to bring the best of them in front of the brands. So that's what we do.
So would you call yourself an agent or a manager or both?
I think we're both. For Hong Kong artists, we have our own artists. So, but we also connect artists who may be interested by other brands.
Okay, now I've called you a very young legend. What was your first big break into what was your first start, and what was your first big break in the music business?
In the music business. I joined a major label around 20-something years ago, and then started with digital, and then the digital business sort of exploded. Then after a few years, after 10 years of working in the digital business industry, I sort of involved in the Asia region, met with artists in the region. And then I joined Gibson Guitar. So that's when I met with a lot of interesting bands. So rock bands, pop bands, or jazz bands. So I worked with the guitar players for a few years with Gibson Guitar as artist relations. And then finally landed on this label that I wanted to do something, stay close, comfortable, and then work with the artists in the region.
You really are so well respected in Asia Pacific, and we've seen you at Music Matters for many, many years. But so when we were talking to Emma, we were asking for advice on advice you might have for young managers or agents who are trying to get into the business. What advice would you, with all your 20 odd years of experience, what advice would you give them today to succeed?
For maybe advice to new artists, I think you need to know your music. You need to know to find your audience for your music. So people that like your music, and then try to network, find a suitable manager that will bring the opportunities to you, and that can market you. And then you need to be open to collaboration and stay aware of the trends in the industry. So that's the advice to the artist. For the rookie that wants to be a manager, you need to find understand your artists, understand their music. You need to love them, and you need to bring the best of them in front of the brands and the stage. So you need to start helping them to engage their fans from day one. So I was very surprised that there are so many young talent in the industry, up and coming, and they surprised me in every different way. So they update their IG social media platform and Twitter, and new song, new demo every other day. And the stamina that they have for the love of music and the fans, and they started engaging the fans from day one. And they even have created a different version. For example, if it's for a TikTok friendly version, they would either create a riff or a short version for this special platform, and then they create a longer demo for the listening to SoundCloud or other music platform. So I think the young talent right now, they are very creative. They just need help, and then also sort of more experienced manager to help them to grow their audience.
And final question for you, Caroline. What's really exciting for you at the moment?
We started to have new gigs in Hong Kong. So we are able to do audience size from 700 to up to 85% of the capacity at Hong Kong Coliseum. So that's probably 8,500 people. So other than live shows, we are also working with technology companies. We recently did an XR live shows with an XR technology company that put out a show for our artist Sugar Club. We did it last year. That was the first XR show in Hong Kong.
And XR, so that's metaverse. That's
yep. With a lot of like different background that backstage you can change maybe every 10 seconds. So it's quite interesting.
The metaverse really is something that everyone's talking about at the moment. So maybe when we have the group, when you have all three of you back together, we'll talk a little bit more about the metaverse. But Caroline, for now, thank you so much for joining. We're going to put you in the back room, but you're going to come back again shortly after. Up next, we have the co-founder of One Digital Entertainment in India, Gurpreet Singh. Gurpreet, hello. Thank you so much for being patient and waiting for the first two speakers. Gurpreet, I know who you are, but please, could you tell the World Wide Web, who are you, where are you, and who do you work with?
Thanks, Jasper. Thank you so much. I'm Gurpreet. I'm co-founder of One Digital Entertainment. I started this company around 9 years back. When I used to work, I used to head the digital business for Icom18 and their TV channels, especially MTV, and had a lot of my artist friends who used to call me up because they thought because I'm at MTV, it will mean that I can push their music videos on MTV very, very seamlessly. However, during those days, I'm talking about 2012, 2013, the only music videos which used to get played at TV stations, radio stations were primarily Bollywood. And the entire industry was not producing a lot of independent music. And I thought there's a need gap and there's an opportunity for me to step out, build my own venture and help artists release their music on their own YouTube channels. And when we started doing that, we became YouTube's first enterprise partner in the country. Then we knew that now we have to tie up with DSPs to start distributing their music. So we went ahead and did the deals with all the platforms. Then we knew that we have to guide them with the new platforms coming up: Facebook, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, the entire social media revolution. And we built a separate vertical for social media to help the artists. And obviously, the demand for brands came in. We put up a separate sales team. Demand for live gigs came in, and we started putting up a separate artist management team just to look after the live gigs and all. So for us, for me, it like how Jasper, you have been using the word DIY for a lot of artists. As a company, I think for us, it has been a very DIY company, how we've scaled up. Not primarily by design, because by design, we are a largely digital entertainment company. But because when we started working with artists, right? And as you know, working with an artist is like having, it's a relationship, not just limited at professional level, but you get emotionally invested in the artist that you're representing. So whatever they are lacking, whatever they need, you need to bring them onto the table, either via partnerships, or if you believe that they are not great companies who are doing the quality of work that you need, you'll build those verticals within in-house. So that's where we are today. We represent over 600, 700 artists across the ecosystem. I know our discussion is primarily right now focused towards music, but obviously we work with people in music, in food, fashion, comedy segment, just where a lot of those creators that we have represented all these years. So yeah, so that's who we are. I'm presently in Bombay, and yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, you do so much. But what would you say is your role with an artist? What's your core role with an artist?
I think it just firstly it starts with, I mean, when we are working with artists, and a lot of artists reach out to us because of some of the success stories that we have built all of these years. And I think as Emma rightly mentioned, right, while you might have great talent, but how much is the hard work you're going to put into to build your own career, right? Because we all are enablers, right? We are not magicians who can take a magic wand, right, and then just turn somebody into a superstar overnight. We are just enablers who will ride on the hard work, on the talent that you have. And the biggest thing I think, which I have learned personally in all these years, is the patience and to stay on grounded. There are people who achieve overnight success, and there are people who do even bigger than them by working hard for 2 years, 3 years, and not getting noticed for those 3 years. But then people call them an overnight story, and they end up delivering a super hit song. And yeah, that's what.
Obviously you do work with a lot of artists, and yes, a lot of this is, I mean, it's the Music Masters Academy, but we've had a lot of other influencers joining sessions to talk about how they've succeeded outside of the music business, because musicians can learn a lot from influencers. And you and I have talked about this a lot before. In fact, we had Bhuvan Bam was on the last session, BBK Vines, and he gave a masterclass in how to market yourself. Now, he was a musician, or he is a musician, but he's a comedian and an influencer and what have you. But this question of how to get noticed, yes, for musicians, but taking all that experience you have for all these artists, 600-700 artists you work with across all those amazing genres. What's the secret to getting noticed?
I think, the first thing which everyone will say, right, it's the content which you believe is good and the content which you believe will be appreciated by the consumers, right? Because it's not limited to what you think is a good content from your point of view, but it's what the audience wants. And being able to, I tell this to all of my artists, right? I mean, many years back, a musician's job was just to go into a studio and produce music, right? I don't think we are living in the same times right now, right? A musician's job is to act as an entrepreneur, is to understand the entire business model, is to understand the various verticals they need to ride on. I still remember when we started a couple of years back, and when I used to go to some of the biggest Bollywood playback singers, and I used to go and request them, let's set up their YouTube channel. Let's set up their social media accounts, right? Because they were killing in the live events during that time. they always used to be reluctant, right? Because a lot of artists are used to that why should I spend some time creating a Facebook page or putting a video on YouTube when I'm not being compensated on day one for that, right? But these are the things I think which an artist they need to understand today. It was much easier years back when your only job was to create music. Today you need to know why you need to invest into those things. I think my biggest advice to every musician or every talent that I work with, that whatever you're making, whatever success you have today is because of the hard work you did last year, right? So if you want to make your next year even bigger than this, don't get carried away with the success that you have currently. Keep investing, keep learning, keep evolving, so that you have bigger success, bigger monies from next year onwards.
And what advice would you have for people who are just starting out in the business, on the agency side, on the whether it's an agent or a manager? What advice would you have for them?
You know, a lot of people ask us that give us credit for some of the successful stories that we have been able to build, right? And I think I give the credit back to the talent in terms of, because this is a relationship, it's a blind trust, not just we are having on a talent, but a talent needs to have into us also, right? And that's something which developed over the years, just like any other personal relationship, right? It's not like you've just signed a piece of agreement and overnight you believe you just stick to your deliverables, mutual deliverables, and start doing that. It's you need to get fully invested into what are the artist requirements, and you cannot have a blueprint, one same blueprint for every artist that you give to your team, right? That this worked for an artist A, let's just replicate this for an artist B as well. You need to spend a lot of time with the artist, understand not just in the scope of work in creating their content, but otherwise their needs, their temperament, what are the things that they would eventually want to dream, right? And achieve. Because if you will work towards helping them achieve their dream, that's where they will be consistent, right? Otherwise, a lot of people will try a few things for a couple of months and just drift away, for that matter. Like Jasper, you mentioned the example of Bhuvan, right? I mean, I think that's a very classic example, right? An artist who always primarily wanted to be a musician, right? But was struggling to get a platform. He started creating comedy content, started building a crazy audience. Today is one of the biggest YouTubers from Asia, and now is using his audience to distribute his music without being backed by a record label, right? We distribute his music across all platforms for Bhuvan, but I think that's a very classic DIY example where somebody has built his entire fan club and the cloud online on his own, and is doing some amazing work today. Another example, just what I would like to share with you, there's an artist that we represent, Sidhu Moosewala. If you will just Google or YouTube him, you will see he has 10 million subscribers on his YouTube channel. Has already entered Billboard UK, Billboard Canada mainstream charts, and is sitting out in a very remote village in Punjab called Musa. His village name is called Musa, and that's why he carries his village name as a part of his last name. That's why he's called Sidhu Moosewala. But a guy sitting in a village in Punjab, hitting Billboard charts, not all the mainstream charts in India, but hitting Billboard UK mainstream charts, hitting Billboard Canada top 100 charts, with every second, third track of his being given a lot of love by superstars like Drake, who are following him and liking his every other post on Instagram. I think that's a classic example of such great, interesting times and of digital era we are in, where somebody just sitting out of his home because he doesn't want to leave his family. He doesn't want to just move to a metro city in India or overseas for his career. He's sitting in his family, in his village, and is today one of the biggest superstars of the country, where some of the biggest labels that you and me know of are going to his village, are going to some of the biggest heads of brands are going to his village and signing brand deals. And he is bragging about this in his songs.
So before we bring the whole group back together, you're in the middle of so many different artists, say genres, all that kind of wonderful stuff in India. But what's really exciting for you right now? It doesn't have to be about music, anything. What's really exciting for Gurpreet Singh right now?
I think, like everyone mentioned, the biggest excitement right now is the live scene opening up, right? We all have been part of virtual events. A lot of our artists have performed on virtual gigs, but I don't think there's a bigger gig. There's a bigger kick for anyone to be a part of on-ground live event. And as we speak, we have some of our artists lined up for some of the biggest concerts down this year, and that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, and an event called "It's a Girl" thing that's coming up, but that's
absolutely, yeah.
That's
yeah.
that we'll be producing with you and Z. So Gurpreet, thank you so much. Now we're going to bring everyone back together. Now, anyone who's watching this on our Bizzabo channel or on YouTube, please, if you've got any questions, get them in now, because we've got 3 fantastic people here. Now I'm going to keep on asking some questions here. Emma, welcome back. Caroline, welcome back. Firstly for you, Emma, we've talked about successes. We've talked about how to succeed and how to get it right. What do you see are common rookie errors for agents in the music business? Where do they get it wrong?
Oh, goodness me. Where do they get it wrong? I think believing your own hype, thinking that a band or an artist is bigger than they are, not going through the steps. I think if you want to build a fan base, you really need to have fans that come on a journey with you. And that means that you either have to wait a long time and then just play arenas or stadia, but the music and other things have done the talking, or else you really don't want to miss out playing that mid-size venue. And I think sometimes people just go too quickly, and if the fan comes along super fast and it's often just off one song, you need to think that if you're doing a show for 60 minutes, 10,000 people waiting for one song is not a pleasant experience for the musicians on stage even. So I think understanding that this is a journey is really important. I think believing as an agent or anybody in this business that you are the big deal is also a huge mistake. And I see people fall into it. Just because you've got a big client doesn't mean you're a big deal. No one's, as I've said earlier, no one's coming to see the gig or look at the YouTube channel or buy the record because of you. You're behind it. You're helping. And I think, just treating people with respect. I'm shocked sometimes at how people that have achieved really very little treat others with a lack of respect, because everybody is crucial in this business. Be as nice to the guy that opens the backstage door to you as you are to the manager of the artist and the artist, because that person that opened the door or is doing the security in a year's time could be managing the act for all you know. And be nice to people on your way up, because then hopefully they will be nice to you on the way down.
Nice advice. Caroline, same question to you. What are the common rookie errors that you may have seen throughout your career?
I think some of them, they do not know their strength. They don't know the music style that speaks to their certain audience, so they probably don't know their fans. And they spread themselves too thin. They want to try everything. They're not focused. So if you're focused in doing something really good, that's very, very important. But maybe some of our artists, they just want to try new things and they're new, and they don't know what is the most appropriate thing that they need to focus on. So and also maybe they want to try everything, but sometimes their voice or the music does not suit their style, or that's what they probably need advice and guidance on.
It's great watching everyone kind of nodding while you're all talking. It's brilliant. Gurpreet, same question to you. We've talked a lot about success. What are the errors?
I think Emma and Caroline has perfectly summarized. Both of these legends, that's what they do 24/7, while managing an artist, something which we are getting into, because like I keep saying, we are primarily a company which builds digital portfolios. But I think some of one of the classic learning for me, which I give to a lot of artists, because like Emma mentioned it, staying grounded and staying humble for a lot of artist managers. But I think at the same time, for an artist also, that's where their downfall starts, when they start believing that they have become bigger and they have arrived and this is what it will stay throughout their life, and they don't need to change or they don't need to evolve. And I gave a very, very classic example. There's an artist, Gurdas Man. He's considered God in the Indian music industry because he has been doing producing quality music since 1980 now. He's 65 years old, still touring worldwide. And I manage his digital portfolio. I went to his UK tour in 2017. And just out of love, just because I wanted to be part of the team, no professional involvement. And I think what my biggest learning was, after every show, he used to come back to his room and gather all of us, including his son, his wife and all. And he used to ask, how did it go? Was I wrong anywhere, right? And he has been doing it since 1980. He's 65 years old. He's selling.
1980 wasn't that long ago, Gurpreet.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. But I was born in 84, right? And we have grown up looking at him as a superstar. And I think like Emma mentioned, right, going into smaller cities, going into smaller places also for your fans, right? While he was selling out 10,000 people concerts in Barclay, Birmingham, but at the same time he was going for 1,000 venue place in Sunderland, right? I mean, those are the places I discovered. If I would not have traveled with them, I would have never probably gone to Sunderland and visited them. I think so. If somebody of that stature who had stayed a superstar in all these years, I think that's the secret. If somebody asks me, how do you stay relevant all of these years? But by just constantly evolving and staying true to your audience. I have seen him, the only time he got angry at his team because he was supposed to make a 5-minute changeover to change his dress, and his team took 7 or 8 minutes. And what hurts him is that there's an audience who has paid, and you have wasted 3 additional minutes of theirs who have paid monies and are spending their time to come and get entertained, and you move them away for additional 3 minutes. And I think those are just learnings which I'm getting on the job and trying to give it to the younger artists.
Nice. Now we've had a couple of questions from the World Wide Web. Ross, now if I pronounce your surname wrong, Ross, I apologize. Look at my surname. So Ross, it's either Paryag or Paryag. It says 2/3 of the challenge. What are the challenges you've faced throughout your career? I'm going to ask Emma first. What are the biggest challenges you've faced through your career?
I don't know if I've ever really focused on the challenges, because I've just got on with it and not looked at any negatives. So I'm sure if I actually started picking it apart, being a woman when I started, you were just a bit freaky. There weren't many of us around, but I never focused on that. I was just a person in the music business doing the best I could. And I think that's what's really important. I have a strong family around me. I have people that love me, supporting me. Occasionally disappointing things happen, but I think the challenge sometimes is just getting up every day after you've had a late night. I taught myself how to survive on 3 hours sleep for a very long time. And I'm sure this isn't the kind of answer that your man's looking for, but I just think, every day the challenges make you who you are. It's not supposed to be easy. Getting taken seriously, meeting all the people you want to meet, being told as a young agent, oh no, we need somebody with more experience. When you're so passionate about working with an artist, it's challenging. I think we've worked hard, at CAA to get around that by teaming people with more experience with the younger agents or the less experienced agents, so that everyone's getting to work on big artists, exciting artists, and you don't have to wait 10 years before you become something out of nowhere. So I suppose those are challenges, but I've got to say, I've just had head down and worked and got on with it. And if there are challenges, they're just part of every day.
Good for you. That's what all 53-year-olds think. Caroline, same question for you from another 53-year-old. Actually, I'm 53 soon. But Caroline, challenges that you faced.
The challenges that I face would be there are so many talents out there. They emerge every day. So over the years, we've seen a lot of people with good songs and a good band, but sometimes we were not able to help them to sort of emerge from the market. So we met so many of them, but we never had enough sort of slots to help them grow. I think that's probably our challenge.
And Gurpreet?
I think for the biggest challenge which I face is with some of the artists is trying to prove a point on a day-to-day basis, right? And this normally happens with new clients that we onboard, right? Because I think in this industry there are not things that you can be executing on a day-to-day basis, right? There's a project which will take a month, a project which will take a 2 month, which will take a 2 months, right? And we as a team sometimes it's a little disheartening when you have to present a report card for a project which which will take you 60 days, but being able to give it to your clients on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons I stayed away, while I do now, stayed away from managing a music artist for a live gig business for the longest time, because I didn't see a reason why I should be answerable to somebody that why I don't have a weekend slot booked up for my concerts, right? Even if they are not being able to build the fan base that they should be able to, they should be focusing on first building their fan base, right? And getting followers across their digital portfolio, getting streams on DSPs, and then let's talk about selling. Why I'm not doing a show in a 10,000 capacity venue, and why am I doing in a 1,000 capacity venue? So I think being able to tell people the reality and being able to work with them, that they understand and they appreciate that why we are blunt, honest with them, is not that we are trying to make them look small, but I'm just giving an honest advice. And I think that not everyone takes it that way, because at times people think they have arrived much before than they actually have.
We have a question from David Ash for Emma. With your larger, you may not be allowed to answer this. With your larger tours, how often do you build the show's production out with the artist management before going to building out deal structures with the promoters, assuming the bigger acts like the Red Hot Chili Peppers have a show in mind before contracting?
And the answer is not often enough. I think we're all seeing it. Everything is getting booked further and further and further in advance. I'm booking tours for 2023 already and having discussions about 2024, and partly it's a byproduct of COVID that everything's been shifted, and so you can't get any dates next year, and it's getting tougher in 23, and we're having to commit to things earlier. Everyone's going on sale super early right now, and the artists aren't ready in certain cases, so you have to push really hard to try and get an idea of what they're going to do, and at the very least agree if it's in the round or end on. But a lot of the time people just aren't ready. We're booking shows and sometimes confirming them before the album that they may be promoting has actually been recorded or certainly finished. So we manage, we cope. Most of the big artists have the same team working with them year in, year out. They'll have a bit of an idea as to what should happen, but it's tough. It's really tough. And no, in the ideal world, we would do deals where we knew exactly what the production was going to be, where the seat kills were. The reality is we have to go on sale and hold things off sale because we don't know whether there'll be a monitor or a speaker or a bit of stage set and people won't be able to see, which is why when we go, production holds just released, that's not rubbish. Often it's actually true. It doesn't mean we haven't sold the tickets. It means we had to keep them off sale.
There's a question from David Bonamy again for you, Emma, here, but I'm going to ask it slightly differently to how he's written it, but is it an agent's role if a show isn't selling? Is it the agent's role to fill a room, or is it the promoter's role to fill a room, or is it a team conversation?
Well, the tickets are sold and issued by the promoter, but the agent is the first person that's going to be sacked by the artist. So it's in everybody's interest. And obviously we all aim to have sold out shows. by and large. There are some tours that are not set up to be sold out. They're set up to gross as much as possible. And you do see that sometimes, that people will go into a bigger venue, they'll know they're not going to sell it out. I think, what we call papering the house, giving away free tickets can be very dangerous, because a free ticket has no value. And even if you get people to pay, $1 or something, it has actual value. I think where possible, the industry as a whole veers away from giving out just general free tickets, from making it a free-for-all. But in a lot of countries now, you have some really great setups. So, if I look at what there is in the UK, things like Tickets for Troops, which is giving away tickets to the families of the armed forces who maybe don't get those opportunities. They're not highly waged people, and their mum or their dad of these kids or whoever can be away for months on end serving in other countries. So we will sometimes use something like that, or go to hospitals, or carer societies. So it's more of a closed unit that you're giving tickets to, and I think they're felt more special. I think if you just go, who wants a free ticket, it doesn't behoove us well. And you see in certain markets that have done a lot of free ticketing, no one buys a ticket in advance because they expect there to be something for free later on. So we have to be strong, and at some point artists have to accept that they might not be playing to a full room.
Well, we often, for many years at Music Matters, even with the year you were there, Emma, we always invite artists to come to the event, because it actually does them some good. But I think artists are the least likely to pay for a ticket for anything.
No, agents are the least likely.
Well, anyone in the music business, full stop, maybe. But
Yeah,
Caroline mentioned the metaverse earlier on. Gurpreet, has the metaverse hit India yet? By the way, we will be doing Meta Matters next year at some stage. But is the metaverse in India?
Sorry, Karen. You.
Yep.
Gurpreet first. There was an India specific.
It's there. I think people are getting into the idea about the virtuality meets the real world. They're opening up with those things, but there are new technology, there are new products coming into the market to build the entire hybrid of the real and the virtual world. But I think from a music consumption, from music experiencing the live gigs point of view, it's a little far away. We all are dying to get into the real world after the post COVID times, and then we'll see how it goes over the next few years.
Caroline, how was your experience with the metaverse?
Well, actually, we tried out with a local XR technology promoter, and they provide the technology, we provide the artists. We did the first gig in Hong Kong last September. It was a 700 people audience space, and the audience loved it, the fans loved it, and the artists loved it because they don't need to change a lot of pops, and then all of a sudden they experience a lot of different scenario, and so it was a really great experience. I think this is getting more and more popular, and also with the online live shows, it's also getting more popular because of the pandemic. We are getting we're planning a lot more online shows as well compared to last year. So
I think now I think we're running short on time, and we are going to be doing a separate session on streaming and live. And there's the question of whether people will pay to watch an online show versus a live show, and the different experiences and hybrid and stuff like that. But Emma, I just want to ask you that about the metaverse. Is it something that's exciting for CAA, for you, for your artists? Is it a fad? Is it? What are your thoughts on online shows in the metaverse?
I think it's not a fad. I mean, it became obviously a big deal during the pandemic because literally you couldn't see a live gig any other way. I think that, I think what we've come to expect through the last year and a half, 2 years, is that there has to be a level of production associated with it. And what was really charming and filled time for us all back in March, April, May last year, where literally we were locked in our houses and couldn't go out at all. And you would see all kinds of musicians literally picking up a guitar and strumming away for 20 minutes, which was fun. I think that's lost its appeal. I think that it becomes quite average after a while. And so the problem you have with gigs that are only live stream, metaverse kind of things is that the actual cost of putting it together versus the financial reward you can get if you're selling a ticket online is impossible. I mean, I don't know very many bigger artists that have done that kind of show. And I put the BTSs of this world to one side because they are absolutely the exception. But most artists have lost a lot of money when they do this. So I think what's exciting actually is with gigs coming back, when you can amortize the cost of putting a show together over a tour, whether it's a month, a year, 2 years, is that you're never going to get everywhere. And there are some people that can't leave their houses for pandemic reasons or others. And if what we can start doing is putting a live stream event from a live event and make it special and think about it a little bit more than it's just a stream, I think then those people that live in out of the way places, countries that don't get touring, whole of Europe for any UK artists because of Brexit right now, not quite, but I think that that's going to be a positive, and I think will be a business boost. It will make some extra money, and it will mean that people can enjoy gigs. But let's not forget, prior to the pandemic, there was lots of live streaming going on from festivals, and not that many people watched it. Glastonbury Festival is the total exception, and probably Coachella from America, which had very big online presence streaming. But most of them, people don't generally watch live music on TV, laptop, whatever it might be. It's not as good as being there.
We're out of time, which is a shame because I'd really like to carry on talking to the three of you, but you've all got lives that need to continue on. And I've taken some notes I'd love to share just to summarize everything you talked about, but so much. Be tenacious, take the highs and lows, do what you love. If you're working hard, you need to work harder. I love that one. Getting noticed is very, very hard. It really isn't easy, but quality work does matter. Be lucky, make people talk about you. Great news, gigs are coming back. Not so much in Singapore yet, but we'll keep pushing. We know about your music. Be aware of the trends. Be engaging. Content matters. Be an entrepreneur. Understand the business. Keep learning. Keep evolving. Don't believe your own hype. I thought was great. I'll take that one myself. Take your fans on your journey. Respect everyone in the process. You say, thank the person who opens the door. Stay focused. Stay truth. The challenges are make you who you are. Papering venues has no value. But finally, the final word is vote for Lady Bowthorpe in the Cartier Racing Awards.co.uk for Emma. So from London to Hong Kong to Bombay, from Emma to Caroline to Gurpreet, thank you so much for joining the Music Masters Academy. You've all had smiles on your face. I have a massive grin on my face talking to you. Hopefully everyone out there has learned a lot. So thank you for joining us. Up next, we will have more Music Masters Academy programming coming up soon. And don't forget to please join us in Singapore later this month. Sports Matters, Music Matters, Marketing Matters, and VidCon all in the same week, live in Singapore and online around the world. Look up allthatmatters.asia. But again, thank you so much to Emma. Thank you to Caroline. Thank you to Gurpreet. Have a great evening, day, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you.